All right, welcome once again to Pub Politics, a very festive edition. It's holiday week here on Pub Politics. Wes Donahue on the Republican side, red, white, and blue.
That's right.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Phil Bailey, not in the colors, but nevertheless patriotic on the Democratic side.
Always, just casual today.
Democrats hate America.
Whoa, whoa.
Not on the 4th of July, Wes.
Come on, cheap shot.
All right, let's talk about some big goings on here the past week. Since our last episode of Pub Politics, Governor Nikki Haley cleared of any ethics charges by a House panel here in South Carolina. Phil, I'm going to start with you. We talked about this the past couple of weeks. Wes was pretty confident this was a waste of time. Circus, I think was the word that we threw around.
Yep.
So now when it's all said and done, Phil, you look back on this, was this a waste of time?
I don't think the questions that were put out there were ever adequately answered. This was what we saw last week, was that the hearing with the House Ethics Committee was a complete farce. They only heard one side of the story. That the person that was making the accusations never had an opportunity to confront Governor Haley. The witness list was weak. The people that were not called were the ones that had the detailed information. They were not called. No tough questions were asked. It was a complete farce.
So you have a problem with the way the hearing went down then?
Yeah, I mean, Soviet Russia had fairer hearings than what happened last week.
Wes, your response, your rebuttal to that?
Listen, they wanted an investigation. They got the investigation. They wanted a hearing. They got the hearing. It was fair. It was appropriate. She didn't do anything wrong, so it's time to get over it. You see people like Robert Reichert, this Democratic state Senate candidate here in Columbia, throwing out these press releases demanding an investigation by the Attorney General. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is a circus. Let the woman do her job, which is create jobs for South Carolina. She's doing a fantastic job at it. Leave her alone.
Phil referenced the fact that the person bringing the charges was not up there talking, and Mr. Rainey.
Yeah.
And why was that? Any
Listen,
idea why that didn't happen?
The guy provided a binder about that big. The questions were asked, everything that he wanted. What does he want to do? Throw out some more racist and bigoted accusations? The guy is obviously out for Nikki Haley. It's personal. It has nothing to do with issues or right or wrong. The guy just needs to let it be.
None of the questions that Mr. Randy put forth were actually asked by the panel. They were not asked by the attorneys that were involved. In fact, he was kept in a room for 12 hours, just tucked away. It was a complete farce.
The man literally told the governor.
The ethics committee should be ashamed of themselves for the show trial they put on.
This is a man who told the governor, "I want you to prove to me your parents aren't related to terrorists." You know what? This is the kind of guy that should be stuck in a room for 12 hours and not allowed to say anything. The guy's an idiot.
This is the same man that Governor Haley did a handwritten thank you note saying, "I look forward to making you proud of me," right after their so-called meeting where she alleged that Mr. Randy said those things. So I mean, it's again Nikki Haley saying one thing under oath and then that reality being another thing.
Now that it's all said and done, when the dust settles, the smoke clears, after this hearing, does this make the governor look better in the eyes of the average South Carolina resident, or are they tired of the whole process?
It goes into her brand. Her brand's always been the status quo is always screwing with me. In this case, they did it again. And she proved it again that she's right. It just goes in to prove that she's fighting the good old boy status quo system.
I'm glad that you admit that her brand is the victim card, and that's what she continues to play.
Because she's been the victim.
She cannot continue to play the victim card
when a man
has a record of doing good old boy things and then railing against the good old boy system.
When a man says, "Prove to me your parents aren't terrorists," I don't understand how that's not being the victim.
And Mr. Rainey never had a chance to respond to that accusation.
He's got plenty of times. All he ever does is talk to newspapers. The guy's sorry.
That's okay. Maybe, well, I was gonna say maybe he can come on Pub Politics and we can relitigate the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe not on this segment. Let's get on to our other topic of the day, which is the Health Care Act, the Federal Health Care Act. Last week, Supreme Court, in a very narrow ruling, did not strike down the individual mandate, ruled it constitutional, not under the Commerce Clause, but as basically a tax.
That's right.
Now, as we look ahead to the election, the politics of this, on the surface it would appear, Wes, victory for President Obama, defeat for the Republicans. Do you see it that way? And how is this going to play out until November?
No, listen, my internet firm specializes in online fundraising. We raised more money this week than we ever have in the history of our firm. Republicans are engaged. They're giving money. They're all pumped up about the November election, and they're really mad that this was a massive tax hike, as says John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, on the American people.
But is it going to be difficult for, say, Romney to challenge this because of his history in Massachusetts with health care?
No, I don't think so. I mean, listen, Democrats forget that there is a difference between the federal government and states. They don't like to show the existence of states, but listen, states should be able to do what states want to do, and there's a big difference in passing something like this in a state and the federal government forcing it on the states.
Phil, if you're working now for the Democratic side leading in November, I mean, do you guys have a victory on health care now as you go? I mean, is it something that they can't touch you on?
Well, it's something that, now that the law has been approved by the courts, it's going to be taken into effect. And the parts of the law that are already going into effect, children, parents keeping their kids up to the age of 26, the end of the pre-existing conditions, the end of lifetime limits. Those are very positive things that the American people and in South Carolina are going to see that this is a positive effect. I think it's something that the Democrats can be proud of. And like Wes said, I mean, fundraising ticked up on the Republican side, fundraising ticked up on the Democratic side. Both sides are entrenched on this, and we're starting to see polling data that people are starting to have a greater approval weighting of the Affordable Care Act.
So, Wes, for Republicans then, as we go to November, will this replace jobs in the economy as the top issue, or is this going to be a side-by-side thing?
I think it'll fold into that messaging because, again, the Supreme Court called this a tax, and it is literally in the IRS tax code. I mean, this is a tax, and when you talk about tax, whether it's health care or not, it still goes into the economy and jobs.
How do Democrats respond to the tax charge then?
Well, I mean, you had the Romney campaign yesterday said, no, it's not a tax, it's a penalty. And they said that the same thing about the Romney care in Massachusetts. The tax charge, George H.W. Bush's tax increase when he was president was a greater tax increase than what this is going to be. So let's put this in perspective.
All right, so that is done. It was a busy week. I mean, this is the summer. It's supposed to be slow, but we had a lot of stuff going on. Once again, pubpoliticslive.com. What's the schedule upcoming here the next couple of weeks?
Well, we're definitely taking off
tomorrow. Taking some time off.
4th of July. That makes sense.
Yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday.
Okay. Well, pubpoliticslive.com is the website for these guys. You can check them out, when they're going to be, who their guests will be, and then you can watch them online, or you can hang out with them in various pubs across the Midlands. Phil, Constant, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy Independence Day, Wes Donahue. Very
you, sir.
festive. We'll see you guys next week. Back to you.